Hello and welcome to this special edition of DD News on Myanmar. How this country is changing and how changes here made by the government, both politically and economically, could change the face of this country and also provide a crucial geopolitical impetus to the entire region, the Southeast Asian region. I start my journey in the capital Naypyidaw.
Myanmar, also known as Burma, is opening up. Since 2010, the country has embarked on political and economic reforms. Internally, while the country has embraced democracy and released pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi from house arrest, externally it has engaged with the world, calling on more investments from the world. Recently, it held its telecom auction in which many telecom companies from India also applied. Moved its capital from Rangoon to a new capital, Naypyidaw.
Here I am in Myanmar's new capital, Naypyidaw. The capital boasts of world-class infrastructure, development at high pace, but there is one shortcoming, that the town looks like a ghost town. Though the infrastructure is built for next 50 to 60 years, but the area is sparsely populated and it seems that people are just not there in the city. Nobody knows why the capital was shifted from Rangoon to Naypyidaw. The reason still remains shrouded in mystery, but only time will tell how successful this venture of Myanmar will be in future.
But more importantly, what does it mean for India? India's northeast shares a long border, so what happens in Myanmar affects us directly. Also, Myanmar does not has only one large neighbor. China is its other large neighbor. And it's said Myanmar is the place where India meets China. India and Myanmar share a long history and are culturally related, Buddhism being the main religion in the country. Myanmar, also known as Burma, then was directly controlled by British Raj. Who can forget this famous song?
मेरे पिया ओ मेरे पिया दे रंगून किया है वहाँ से टेलीफोन तुम्हारी याद सताती है तुम्हारी याद सताती है दिया में आग लगाती है मेरे पिया दे रंगून किया है वहाँ से टेलीफोन तुम्हारी याद सताती है तुम्हारी याद सताती है दिया में आग लगाती।
Let's take a view from India's highest representative in the country, India's ambassador to Myanmar, Gautam Mukhopadhyay.
How important is Myanmar as a neighbor to us?
The fact is that Myanmar is a country with whom we have had age-old historical ties since time immemorial. Very deep historic, cultural, civilization, religious ties. So much so that perhaps the earliest and strongest influences of Myanmar were those of India. And of course then we had a continuing linkage during the period of the British rule, where Myanmar was for most of its period under British rule governed from India.
Myanmar is going through serious political and economic reforms. The country is opening up. Recently, there was telecom auction also in which perhaps one of the Indian companies also took part. So, where do you think it's an opportunity for Indian investors, and how will it help India in a larger picture if we see?
Yes, Myanmar is in the throes of some very major transitions, and if you see what they have accomplished in 2 years between 2011 and 2013, it's quite remarkable, and it's a very steady transition. There are challenges. Every transition will have its challenges. Myanmar challenges are great because for 50 years they were effectively cut off from much of the world. But the international community is responding to these transitions and to these reforms, and India has I would say a kind of fraternal and an emotional desire to help in this context, and this is in fact manifested in the area of business as well.
So specifically now talking about economic relations, we know lots of Indian companies, as you just talked about the fact that lots of Indian companies are ready to invest in this country since the country is opening up. How about India getting an economic benefit because of Myanmar opening up, specifically the northeastern part of India?
So I think the basic terms of reference right now would be that Myanmar is a resource-rich country. So that's an offer, that's an opportunity for India to benefit. Take, for example, timber. We import a lot of timber. But now they also want to value add and industrialize. So we can help in that capacity. So in a way, we need their resources, but they need value adding. We can have both by having the resources and having value added resources. It's also true not just in terms of forest resources or primary resources, it's also true in terms of agriculture. Two of our largest items of import are beans and pulses. Now, once again, there is scope for sorting, for processing, for packaging, for marketing, and marketing not only for the Indian market but also for global markets. And you may remember that very recently one of our chambers had organized actually a kind of Africa-Asia business meeting with a specific focus on Myanmar to be able to give an opportunity for Myanmar to. So, India has been doing that. As far as the Northeast is concerned, we have been working, if you see the visits and things that have taken place in the last 9 months, you will see that we have invited 2 chief ministers from the border regions to Manipur. 2 chief ministers from our northeastern states have been here. Another has been invited to come here. There is a lot of movement of business people and regional ministers now for regional trade events in the northeast.
Will Indian investors start singing "Mere Piya gaye Rangoon wahan se kiya telephone again"?
Well, I think that would be lovely. There was a line apparently in Three Idiots that talks about rubies from Mandalay. And, even a chance remark like that has had a big impact here. In fact, let me take this opportunity to suggest that Myanmar is a location that has not yet been explored by Indian film industry. You talk about it being a sort of virgin economic frontier, but it's also a virgin film frontier for our film industry. And Indian film is popular here. Indian film was even more popular here. There's every opportunity now to rebuild that relationship, do some film events, do some location shooting, bring some Bollywood glamour into Myanmar.
So that was the ambassador speaking exclusively to Doordarshan News, saying that it's time to come invest in the Myanmar growth story.
And historically, the last king of Burma was exiled to India. The last Mughal king was exiled to Rangoon.
India and Myanmar have many things in common: culture, religion, and the most important thing, history, a shared history. And one thing which will touch the emotive chord of perhaps every Indian. I'm standing at the tomb of the last Mughal king who was exiled by the Britishers after the mutiny of 1857, Bahadur Shah Zafar. He lies here. And as I stand here, I feel a sense of history coming face to face with me.
He became the Mughal emperor when his father died on 28 September 1837. He used Zafar as a part of his name, meaning victory. Following his involvement in the First War of Indian Independence in 1857, the British tried and then exiled him from Delhi and sent him to Rangoon in British-controlled Burma. His departure as emperor marked the end of more than 3 centuries of Mughal reign in India.
Well, here I am inside the mazar of the last Mughal king of India, and there's a sense of history, as I already told you. Well, here in Burma, he's not only the last Mughal king of India, but he's also a saint, and people come here to pay their obeisance here and their respects here. And every Friday there is a langar here.
कितना है बदनसीब ज़फ़र दफ़न के लिए, 2 गज़ ज़मीं भी मिल ना सकी कोई यार.
There is a sense of grief in the last Mughal Bahadur Shah Zafar that he couldn't get even a land for himself where he can be buried in his own country, and that sense of grief still lingers, it's said.
At the time of his hurried burial in 1862, a bamboo fence surrounding his grave, which was grown over by grass in the following years, thus the exact spot was lost for nearly a century. In 1991, during a restoration exercise, the original brick-lined grave was discovered. Roads bearing his names are found in Karachi, Lahore, New Delhi, Varanasi and other major Indian and Pakistani cities. His wife Zeenat Mahal, who died in 1886, and granddaughter Ronak Zamani are buried alongside him.
Bahadur Shah, ex-king of Delhi, died at Rangoon, November 7th, 1862, and was buried near this spot we just saw. And herein, the Nishani is there and the mazar of his wife and daughter. The place has lots of pictures, historic pictures, the Nikah-nama of Bahadur Shah Zafar, the pics of his sons and wife.
But perhaps the most moving picture is this: Bahadur Shah Zafar flanked by his sons and a British officer standing menacingly next to them. It sums up the condition of the Mughal Empire in its last days.
कभी कभी जिंदगी हमें दुगनी खुशियाँ देती है, जैसे LIC की न्यू जीवन आनंद पॉलिसी, क्योंकि इसमें आपको मिलते हैं 2 फायदे: 1 टर्म समाप्त होने पर पूरा सम एश्योर्ड, और 2 मैच्योरिटी के बाद भी जिंदगी भर की सुरक्षा। नैना डबल आनंद LIC, जिंदगी के साथ भी जिंदगी के बाद भी।
IRDA clarifies to public that IRDA audit officials do not involve in activities like sale of any kind of insurance or financial products nor invest premiums. IRDA does not announce any bonus. Public receiving such phone calls are requested to lodge a police complaint along with details of phone call number.
मैं तो सारे मैसेज पढ़ूंगी, मैं नहीं देखी तुम्हारा मोबाइल।
तू कब आया मोनू?
अब तो मोनू के कॉलेज वापस जाने का टाइम आ गया है। जब भी कॉलेज जाने की बात करो, इसका चेहरा उतर जाता है, कुछ तो गड़बड़ है।
नहीं नहीं, नया स्टूडेंट है ना, तो सीनियर तो रैगिंग करते ही होंगे, चिंता वाली कोई बात नहीं।
चिंता की बात है भाई साहब, रैगिंग जैसे गंभीर मामले को नजरअंदाज मत कीजिए। एंटी रैगिंग हेल्पलाइन नंबर पर कॉल करें और उनसे सलाह और सहयोग लें।
एंटी रैगिंग हेल्पलाइन नंबर 1800-180-5522 पर कॉल करें।
India has been engaging with Myanmar. In 2012, Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh visited Myanmar. This was the first official visit to Myanmar by an Indian Prime Minister since 1987. And the Prime Minister chose his last trip abroad as the head of the state to Myanmar for the BIMSTEC or the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation Summit. The grouping is a collection of 7 countries: Sri Lanka, India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar and Thailand. 5 from South Asia, 2 from Southeast Asia. So how important is BIMSTEC?
And with me is the External Affairs Minister Salman Khurshid. Sir, welcome to Doordarshan News. So my first question is, how important BIMSTEC as a grouping is for India?
It's a bridge. And how important is a bridge? If you have to cross a river, a bridge is very important. If you don't want to cross the river, the bridge is unimportant. Now we use and think of BIMSTEC as a bridge between SAARC and ASEAN. We are committed to SAARC, we are committed to ASEAN. So why would we not be committed to that incredibly valuable bridge between SAARC and ASEAN?
So what's there at the agenda this time around from India's side?
Well, India is here to contribute, participate, add value. We are looking at 4 priority areas that we are leading in. We are making a major contribution to the Secretariat budget, which is now being established. Connectivity is a major, transport and connectivity is a major contribution of India. Climate agriculture, major contribution of India. Counter-terrorism, a major contribution of India. And then, of course, this is an evolving thing. As BIMSTEC gets more energy and more traction, there will be a lot more that India can do, and we will certainly be willing to.
With me is India's Foreign Secretary Sujata Singh. Ma'am, welcome to Doordarshan News. Ma'am, my first question is, BIMSTEC as a grouping we know is a collection of South Asian countries and Southeast Asian countries, but what is the grouping all about?
Well, the secret to understanding BIMSTEC lies in the title. The Bay of Bengal Multi-Sectoral Initiative on Technical and Economic Cooperation. So this brings together 5 countries from the South Asian region, plus 2 countries from the Southeast Asian region, all focused on the Bay of Bengal. And it seeks to promote connectivity, it seeks to promote trade, it seeks to promote investment.
What's the role of India in this grouping, and how helpful will be for India as a part of this grouping economically, culturally, socially and all that?
The Bay of Bengal initiative is an extremely important initiative for all the countries, and especially as far as India is concerned, which is why we have been playing a lead role. We have been playing a pioneering role in bringing about this particular regional organization.
Talking about the agenda this time around at the 3rd BIMSTEC summit, what is the agenda and what are the key points where deliberations will take place?
Well, one of the most important outcomes of this summit is that we now have a permanent secretariat, which is going to be set up in Dhaka, as well as some very important centers that are going to be operationalized.
Well, the 3rd BIMSTEC summit in Myanmar's new capital Naypyidaw is over, and well, lots of things were there on agenda. 13 priority sectors were there on agenda. From India's side, economics, people-to-people contact, connectivity, energy, and of course security, counter-terrorism dominated the agenda. Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh in his opening statement said that the group should not let its geographical boundary impede its growth, and also said that the FTA, the BIMSTEC FTA should be expedited as soon as possible. So it seems that economics is the new currency in diplomacy. Now coming to agenda of other countries, Bangladesh emphasized on climate change, and as the summit came to an end, the declaration called for many things: eradication of poverty, expediting the FTA, as I have said, and also they were signing of 2 memorandum of understandings and memorandum of association. There will be a permanent secretariat in the Bangladeshi capital Dhaka, and of course a center of climate change in Noida, and energy BIMSTEC center in Bangalore, and also the new the summits or the new chairperson of the group, Nepal, taking over. And also when the permanent secretariat will be established, we will have a new secretary general, who the first secretary general will come from Sri Lanka. So lots of things happen, lots of talk.
But the 3rd BIMSTEC was just not about summit, it was also about many bilaterals with India's neighboring countries.
Well, the BIMSTEC summit has come to a successful end, but the summit also saw a number of bilaterals. India almost held 5 bilaterals, starting with the Myanmarese counterparts, Thin Shan. The meeting, the issues which were raised were connectivity, also cross-border insurgency, terrorism, and controlling the narcotics. Next came with the Prime Minister of Nepal, Sushil Koirala. This is the first meeting between Sushil Koirala and Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. Well, the meeting talked about the internal issues of Nepal, and Prime Minister Koirala said that he will try to draft the constitution within a year. Then on the second day, the biggest bilateral which everyone was watching was between Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh and President Mahinda Rajapaksa of Sri Lanka. The talks were on issues of fishermen jailed in Sri Lanka. Also, India said that it got the draft proposal of the UNHCR resolution, which is set to be tabled in Geneva, which of course criticizes Sri Lanka on its human rights record. The stand still needs to be taken, and of course it will be taken in due course of time. Then to Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Well, this is her first meeting with Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh after being re-elected in the elections. Talks were on power, and also she expressed satisfaction that the border land agreement was in the parliament. Finally, the meeting was with the Bhutanese counterpart. But the biggest meeting, the longest perhaps meeting, came with the opposition leader of Myanmar, Aung San Suu Kyi. The meeting almost lasted for 45 minutes. Well, that was the series of bilaterals, and perhaps this is likely to be the last foreign visit of Prime Minister, and he has focused on neighborhood, which has been his focus in his last 10-year tenure.
So is the BIMSTEC just another regional grouping or a grouping here to make its mark? Only time will tell. Also, what's the future of Indo-Myanmar relation? The word is so far so good. India is engaged with the government but simultaneously talking to opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Though India does not interfere in internal affairs of any country, but it has been supportive of Myanmar in every step it has taken. Myanmar still has to do a lot of work. It has built a gigantic parliament, but will this parliament house the soul of its democracy?
Myanmar, also known as Burma, is going through serious political reforms. The country went through elections in 2011. The new reformist President Thein Sein has been known for his reforms in politics as well as economics. Opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi was released from the jail and was elected to the parliament. The parliament building here next to me, an imposing and gigantic building. But the crucial test for politics here in this country will be in 2015 when the presidential elections will take place. Will the opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi will be allowed to stand up for the post of president? Because there is a crucial section in the constitution of Myanmar, 59F, which clearly states that if a person has a spouse which is of foreign origin, he cannot stand for the elections.
Also comes the question of its cultural diversity. Section 3 of Myanmar's constitution says, the state is where multinational races collectively reside.
Well, this is the Upasanti Pagoda here in the capital, Naypyidaw. It's the exact replica of the Shiftwe Pagoda in the erstwhile capital, Rangoon, also known as Yangon. Well, majority of people in this country follow Buddhism. Buddhism is the main religion here, and many of the people come to Gaya as a pilgrimage they have to do once in their lifetime. But in recent years, there have been fissures between the majority Buddhist population and the minority population in certain parts of this country. The question remains how will this country treat its minority population as it opens up to the world and more public delay comes on this country from world over.
So there are challenges but solutions too. For India and Indians, they'll surely like to sing this song again.